Hey folks, happy Saturday morning rant. It is early January 2026. And as I told you guys, we're going to start doing the rants again this year. So what do I want to talk about today? Let me tell you what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the mayor of New York. I was going to talk about the president and Venezuela, but maybe too soon. So I'm going to talk about the mayor of New York. And here's what I want to talk about. It's going to seem crazy to some people. So you guys know I've been doing criminal justice reform in one way or another for 26 years, arguably for 32 years if you count the time I did in prison. And I've become like a purist about this, and I'm going to explain what I mean. So I know there's a lot of criminal justice reform advocates that really love the new mayor, that love that we have this democratic socialist person running the city of New York and want to do their best to show that he can run the government and do well. And look, you know, I'm progressive, but I've also become a bit more moderate, particularly over the last 8 years or so. But at the same time, I'm willing to give a guy a shot. But then the first thing he did actually bothered the shit out of me, and I'm gonna tell you why. He decided to, he did a number of things, but the one thing he did that caught my attention through the lens of criminal justice reform was to rescind all of the executive orders of Eric Adams. I'm no fan of Eric Adams. If you look through my social media, you see I'm no fan of Eric Adams. He did help me years ago when I was working with others to get rid of New York State's mandatory minimum drug laws. And so he did come on board as a member of law enforcement to help make that happen. And I just like to give credit where it's due. But at the same time, I mean, his tenure as mayor, he was like a real fucking clown. And as a black man, I don't know if you're not supposed to say that or whatever, but he was acting like a fucking clown. I feel like he blew an opportunity, especially when you're coming a couple of decades after Dinkins, who was the only other black mayor. You would think you'd want to do as best a job as possible and not be talking about all the nightclubs that you want to go to. So I'm no big fan of Eric. Maybe he did his best, if I'm trying to be fair. But, you know, our new mayor coming in and deciding to rescind, not just rescind all of his executive orders, but rescind all of his executive orders that started from the day he got indicted. And, you know, people are like joyful about that shit mostly because liberals don't know what the fuck they want to be joyful about. Like today you're joyful about one thing, tomorrow you're joyful about something else, but usually the thing you're joyful about tomorrow undermines the thing you said you were joyful about earlier, the thing you said you cared about earlier. So if you care about criminal justice reform, how the fuck can you be cheering on a mayor that not just decided to get rid of the previous mayor's executive orders, but to do it from the day he got indicted? Guess what? An indictment is a fucking accusation. And there's no conviction, there's no trial, there's no plea deal, and, you know, people are calling it a pardon. It wasn't a pardon. Like, it was just they declined to prosecute. That shit happens all the time. In fact, I would argue that most defense attorneys and legal aid attorneys love for the district attorney, the prosecutor, to decide to not prosecute a case, decline to prosecute. That's something people shoot for when they're trying to fight a case. And so the idea that Eric is a dude you don't dig, so Mamdani coming in and getting rid of his executive orders from the day he got indicted, as if the day you get indicted is the day you become a bad person. I mean, to me, that says something about who you are as a criminal justice reform advocate. Because as I always say, being a good criminal justice reform advocate is not about building a criminal justice system that would be worthy of your child if he or she killed someone. It is building a criminal justice system that you think would be fair, offer due process, and is worthy actually of the person who might have killed your child. And that's a lot different. That's a much higher bar to measure whether you really give a fuck about criminal justice reform, whether you give a fuck about fairness, whether you give a fuck about justice, whether you give a fuck about equity, whether you give a fuck about, you know, people having the resources they need to defend themselves. And as soon as you get this mayor, you know, you jump on the bandwagon and do what most liberals do, which is figure out what's the thing I could be super happy about today and yell and scream and get all worked up and show people how progressive I am, instead of saying, wait a minute, Why the fuck would the mayor say that? Like, he rode into office and brought all these criminal justice reform advocates with him by saying he cares about criminal justice reform. He's actually going to close Rikers finally, and he's going to do all these other progressive things on criminal justice reform. And then the first thing he does is to hold an indictment as an indictment of a person's value. There's so many other ways he could have made the statement that he doesn't dig Eric Adams. I don't dig Eric Adams. There's a lot of ways you could say you don't dig Eric Adams without tying it back to the criminal justice system and then tying it to the type of punishment that our criminal justice system tends to dole out, especially to black men. And it's, in this case, it seems like because the criminal justice system didn't do its job, because y'all are so fucking fake, and doing its job means as soon as you get indicted, you're guilty, that the new mayor is going to decide to do the job for the criminal justice system. And so knowing that now, how the fuck can you just like follow this guy blindly and be on all his fucking committees and task forces and all this shit? Like, I hope whoever y'all are that are doing that, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, although I think government is where advocates go to die, but do what you got to do. But God damn it, like, speak up, like, be fucking critical, be strategic, be thoughtful. I try not to take a piss without being strategic. Like, hello, have a strategy. Don't just serve on this mayor's fucking committee or whatever without speaking up when you need to speak up. So this is not an indictment of everybody who didn't say anything. It's just hopefully the way we can start out the new year, have a new Saturday morning rant, give you a little bit to think about, to talk about. We're going to go deeper this year. I'm going to use the sharp end of the axe. I'm going to come for some of the shit I see out there that's not playing out the way it should play out. I'm going to focus on nonprofits. I'm going to focus on philanthropy. I'm going to focus wherever the fuck I need to focus. But I hope that this gives you a little bit of food for thought and a way to start out the year by saying, damn, am I being as critical as I think I'm being? And am I really spending any kind of capital to be a criminal justice reform advocate? Because guess what? There's a lot of people sitting in cells, a lot of people sitting in courts, a lot of people sitting in jails, a lot of people sitting in prisons, a lot of people sitting at home with electronic monitoring, a lot of people sitting in trial waiting to potentially get found guilty and go to prison for many years. There's a lot of people out there who are being accused of crimes. Like, there's all these people out there reliant on many of the people who are listening to this, who actually get paid to be criminal justice reform advocates, or who have just decided that this is, you know, where you're going to invest your time, your effort, your energy, your resources. And all I'm saying is, like, be all in. Otherwise, get the fuck out. You know how I feel about that. I'm actually glad a lot of the money has gone away and 50% of the resources are gone, because the first thing it did was clear out the motherfuckers who wasn't here for the right reasons in the first place. And there's some more y'all that got to go. I'm not going to say Gabriel or Danielle because I don't like to mention names on these. But there's a lot of people out there that need to go still. But I'm actually glad a lot of the people, like the low-hanging fruit in terms of people who really didn't give a fuck about this and wasn't in it for the right reasons. I know there's a lot of people that packed their shit and moved on to the next thing. And I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But I hope the people that are left here, who are the ones that I'm talking to mostly, hear this message and put aside however the fuck you feel about me and the way I show up and the way I talk to people, whatever. That's who the fuck I am. You helped create that, so what the fuck, it is what it is. And instead, listen to the deeper message of like how you could be better at what it is you say you do in this world. All right, having said that, I don't let anybody steal your rainbow, and happy first Saturday morning rant of 2026. Peace.